May Day 1st, May the 4th with you. So, May Day 1st, 2022, Rio de Janeiro City, Rio de Janeiro State, Federative Unity Brazil. Conjunctural analysis by the concurrence activity as between Brazil and USA. And globally speaking, with international events happened onto both or scheduled onto both. Second, nationality as Portuguese, and in the same way, interest and legitimacy to act from and by the Europe interest. We will have in mind that this situation indeed is this, the accusation about corruption, considering criminal association by blind eye, generally presented and noticed as structural gaps on logical statements and declaration, at the same pattern going as evasive behavior, by tax evasion, by financial evasion. The complementary relation between tax evasion and financial evasion leads to coalitions with misusage of public shares. In general, and in many cases, especially the use of judicial power, is a treason against the state. When you do the tax evasion by overpriced contracts or transference as stimulus covered by your national treasury, and your corporate peer receive this and have the evasion as financial evasion with discount policies, laundering money, integration, you are committing a crime. We will check that this kind of behavior will impact the relation in any area, even in the country that is declared the most free country in the globe. And we will check the concurrence between different sides. Take advantage of to both is a side by itself. It's not Democrats, not Republican, but is a way going by themselves. Inside each one of two, both by fail. In general, we will observe on budget by misusage with the comparative measurement as operation incoming and outcome, coming and going. We will observe without any kind of trouble that we had failures inside corporative area, government and states, leading to an integration of both by gaps as legitimacy at the very first intent and can't be properly accomplished with the premise as first legal premise and second legal premise. Then you had regulatory problems. And this, as a decision, complex and structured, leads to a decision tree. Since you got the problem and you interrupt the process and do the depuration as a drill down, the audit works like this all the time. We'll check that on janky areas, the area is declared jank or a shit environment by the behavior that goes from institution based on what this institution has inside. And to avoid any kind of situation in general by the use of vulnerables and vulnerability speech to justify crimes committed or to not have the proper prosecution and investigation against real and serious offenders, we will have them qualified by numbers. And we will understand maybe in the next conversation today, I think, how this goes and how things are explicitly open to the federal justice in USA. The behavior, as you can observe, is evasive by the integration of by the cross-cut between different sides that indeed present the same thing by different moments or in different situations, like debt and credit, supply and demand, investment saving or liquidity money curve. It's the Fibonacci behavior at the financial area until the economy as evaluation that this area carry on as conjuncture by failures since from the intent, not proper registry between debts and credit, which implies the failure at the accounts, and sometimes big four companies with advantage to keep the silence about this, involving corporate companies that sometimes act or do the business in an international way, even as big tech. Then we will check that the supply and demand will be affected by the continuity of register failure rate, which is a failure on your statement, now a failure at the market, and you have a failure on your entire conjuncture. And we will check that this existentialism indeed brings ourselves to the astrophysics as the relation which is the density as something until the entire reality of this thing as existence. But sometimes we have the reality of something that exists by the reversal behavior, which is the corrupted registry with legal stamp or accreditation by public department, which goes as treason of state, setting the situation that do not exist, but you will present by the reversal behavior as something which indeed will be for sure believed, except if you had the comparative measurement and things like this, like you can blame and tell big lies about this research and about all things, but keep in mind that we have our registry and records open to the federal justice in USA. We will get this model, which is have different sides, for instance, the Democrats, the Republicans, and I will check an empty space here between the relation as the way that acts by themselves at the Democratic political party and the Republican political party. They will be at the free zone to, have their speech and their argument that kind of can be sometimes endless. And we will have here, for instance, inside America, the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the CIA, or the special justice that will firewall the situation, and will have a report presented to the federal justice in USA, to the Department of Justice, or to Department of State in USA. Now, we will check how this presentation had gone. We had the kick-off in Brazil on 1988, and before, which is the current constitution. In America, I think that was on 1789, the constitution as a unique constitution on USA. In the 90s, we had the globalization in Brazil, but we can only have since the 90s up to 1988. Before, we do not have the constitutional stability to have this, but America has this stability. As complementary, our journey now goes since considering 1999 up to 2014 as our academic effort, especially concerned on laundry activity, and on 2014 we will have the speech with Brazil and USA by failures observed, and Brazil didn't recognize only USA. And we keep our movement from 2014 up to 2022. Until 2014, we kind of are having the laundry scheme as object to understand and have things that bring ourselves to the economic and financial control. After we have this economic and financial control, which goes a bit more up to 2018, we suffered so much aggressions that we had a portfolio offered to the NATO. So here is our portfolio. It means that, let's suppose that this that I'm bringing to you at the Federal Justice in USA, you can research on my email account and social media. Since at least 2018, we sure and for sure we have the constant conversation with the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the America Defensive State. And by social media, we are having the speech with the top government and setting the idea as a financial service in USA to have the analysis of big data and things like this that sometimes we can do by ourselves. And we have one situation here since at least 2014 as financial service USA. And we have this financial service in Brazil, South America. We will consider the two countries, but it's America and Brazil, North America and South America, to both leads and to Europe. Then we had the portfolio offered to the NATO. Things like this. And we can observe that the NATO is a piece of interest on America by the Security Forum and by the America as itself. We can have this situation presented like this or as a situation here. And in the same way, I'm doing the financial analysis in Brazil to both leading to Europe, and I have a second nationality. You can have the NATO here in the same way. It's the Ishikawa diagram that you are having here and have the relation as cause and effect. Cause, the research about laundry. Effect, the result research that indeed laundry scam by public departments can lead to a treason against the state by misuse of institutional chairs, even at the judicial power by silence and blind association. The aggression, the responsiveness as now the new cause, considering the previous event, which was the research, is the financial service. Brazil and USA, Security Forum Brazil USA is related with inside the Security Forum Brazil USA. Effect, economic and financial control, a research made and offered even as a portfolio not considered in Brazil and suffered aggression by this cause. Effect, offer a portfolio to the NATO. Venn diagram? No. Ishikawa diagram. It's that diagram that we have with cause and effect. The financial paper indeed is a negotiable instrument with origination from a right as compensation with the pretension of interest at this email account as conversation, with legitimacy to be a moral entity, present arguments, request things, and even the open data at, for instance, this email account as a founder of this committee as creditor. The negotiable instruments flowing by a condition is a conditional paper carrying a causality on it, which is the aggression that originated this compensation. By this diagram as cause and effect, we observe that indeed we are having a causal relation here at least since 19 99 with events before that indeed must be on mind, but we are not observing on it, except when we do the regression for the criminal accusation based on the concurrent organized behavior as organized crime in a transnational way from public budget Brazil that goes since 1988. The cross-cut brings to the America Foundation, I would say, as constitution to understand what peers keep themselves doing the misusage of chairs and institutional power, and keep things like this. We'll have the second conversation very soon. Have a good Labor Day, but we don't stop. We have no days off.